Incredible moment. Poor girl's ultrasound revealed dates that transform CEO's life forever. Emily sat on the cold examination table, the sound of her heart pounding echoing in her ears. The ultrasound technician adjusted the machine, the sterile environment contrasting sharply with the whirlwind of emotions inside her. She had spent years enduring endless nights juggling two part-time jobs, trying to make ends meet while dreaming of white coats and stethoscopes. But now, she was trapped, the reality of her future slipping away with each tick of the clock. When the technician announced the heartbeat's presence, her breath caught. 2? How could there possibly be 2? She attempted to swallow the lump in her throat as panic threatened to spiral. Could she raise 2 babies? A wave of despair crashed over her like a tidal wave. The rent was due in just days, bills were stacking up high, and graduation was right around the corner. How can I take care of this, she thought, heart racing. The weight of expectations loomed heavy. Her dreams were now suffocated by the all-consuming worry of survival. As the technician continued, Emily's eyes cast wildly around the sterile room. She was constantly being pulled in 2 directions, her desire to study medicine clashing violently against the harsh reality of impending motherhood. She had always been the ambitious one in her family, determined to escape their cycle of economic hardship, but what would happen when she failed to escape her life? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Nathan, the town's affluent CEO, was unaware of the whirlwind unraveling in Emily's world. He stood at the desk of his sprawling office, the warmth of the sun filtering through glass and illuminating his deep-set frown. When he heard about the ultrasound, he didn't immediately make the connection between that day and events etched painfully into his memory. The coincidence rattled him. Months of therapy hadn't excused the deep scars left by loss. Suddenly, memories of lighting the funeral pyre for a loved one flooded back, synced with the dates that the ultrasound had revealed. He closed his eyes, telling himself to breathe. What kind of life had his family built, one rooted in legacy but riddled with inherited grief? As rumors began to circulate about the young girl carrying the weight of his past, he felt tethered to her plight. Despite the disconnect in their lives, their paths were irrevocably intertwined. Akimbo with his success, he couldn't shake the shadow of doubt creeping in. His empire didn't shield him from moral responsibilities, nor did it absolve him from confronting the very inequalities he sat atop. But could he see past the privileges he enjoyed to truly help someone like Emily? Tension hung in the air, mingling potential with anxiety. Each heartbeat echoed back to Emily's own fragile situation. As both faced their destinies, the landscape of their lives darkened, suffocated by the secrets of their pasts, one paving the way with silver spoons, the other with desperate aspirations. Emily held tightly to her determination like a lifeline, battling self-doubt, while Nathan wrestled with the enormity of his discoveries. In a community marked by silence, change loomed just out of reach. How could 2 people from such different worlds come to terms with everything that threatened to tear them apart just as they began to understand each other? Their futures hung in the balance, burdened by the weight of their realities. Emily exited the clinic, a delicate storm of emotions swirling inside her. Each heartbeat had sent shudders through her core, morphing hope into fear and spiraling dreams into despair. Outside, the sun pierced the clouds, revealing the world in vibrant hues, but the beauty felt surreal against her chaotic mind. 2 tiny heartbeats echoed ominously, entwined with her worries about rent and graduation looming just around the corner. She returned home to her cramped apartment, the fading furniture and peeling paint. It had once been a sanctuary filled with aspirations, medical textbooks stacked high, posters of famous physicians hanging on the walls, but now, it felt like a cage. Emily paced, trying to smooth over the knots of anxiety swirling in her stomach. How can I embrace this? she questioned, her voice barely above a whisper. It was one thing to wrestle with financial struggles and academic pressures, it was another to carry two lives inside her. She had always been the one who took the risks, who believed in the impossible. But as she cupped her hands over her abdomen, that belief teetered on the brink of collapse. Emily needed clarity. She settled at her desk, the laptop glowing faintly, beckoning her to log into her school's resources. A notion of determination rose within her as she began researching maternal resources, local support systems for pregnant students. The more she scrutinized the pages, the more her sense of agency grew. There were scholarships for single mothers, support groups, and crucially, stories of women who had faced similar storms. It was in these stories where Emily found strength. While she scoured through information, visions of a future flooded her mind, a future where she could pin on a stethoscope, where she would empower others through healing. The heartbeats inside her became symbols of resilience, urging her to push forward rather than retreat into fear. Simultaneously, Nathan sat amidst stark corporate decor and fragrant coffee in his expansive office. The world outside the glass windows was vibrant and full of life, much unlike his own. He thumbed through paperwork almost absently, the words spinning into a blur. The coincidence of the dates resurfaced unbidden, intertwining with thoughts of premature loss and promises unfulfilled. He felt a relentless urgency to understand the impact of Emily's situation, and his own unresolved grief demanded reckoning. Could he bridge his contrasting existence with hers? Questions nagged him, paralyzed by the thought of reaching toward her plight. Great responsibility loomed. Nathan needed to confront not only her circumstances but his aversion to vulnerability that had created the fortress around him, a barrier built from loss and fear. Tomorrow, he resolved, feeling an impulsive shift within his gut. He would find her, learn who she was beyond mere whispers and rumors. Perhaps, just perhaps, helping her could heal parts of himself, could redefine his own notions of privilege and success. It was the next morning when Emily returned to campus, a determined spark igniting inside her. Navigating through her classes, she felt a newly minted focus amid the hustle and bustle. Every conversation she engaged in grew deeper, every interaction richer. She began sharing snippets of her experience, her fears intertwined with purpose. And in these exchanges, she discovered hidden wells of empathy, drawing strength from the community she had just begun to forge. But as she ventured into this newfound growth, she felt a strange gaze upon her. Nathan had joined the vibrant campus life, stirring tension with each step he took towards her. There was something electric in the air, foreshadowing an encounter that could either bind them together or lay bare the chasm between their realities. As their worlds collided, the consequences of their intertwining paths unfolded. Would they grasp this moment, or allow it to slip into the shadows of their pasts? In the heat of the air, decisions lurked just beneath the surface, waiting to bloom. The moment of truth was upon them as they stood close, the weight of their respective realities pulling at their individual threads of fate. Would they risk reaching out, or would fear hold sway? The weight of the moment hung thick in the air, a palpable tension that set Emily's heart racing. She studied Nathan's face, searching for a sign of understanding or connection amidst the layers of emotional armor he wore. Their eyes locked for a fleeting second, electrifying her senses. It wasn't just his stature that drew her in, he exuded a magnetic pull that left her both intrigued and apprehensive. What do I say? Emily wondered, her mind racing as doubt peppered her thoughts. She envisioned the potential paths their conversation could take, each unfolding into a myriad of outcomes wrapped in uncertainty. Yet, this encounter held promise and opportunity to reach beyond their respective struggles into a realm of shared understanding. Hey, Emily. Is this your first semester? Nathan ventured, attempting to bridge the chasm that separated their worlds with casual banter. He was aware of the irony, a successful corporate executive discussing academia with someone on the brink of motherhood. But beneath the surface of this dialogue lay a deeper yearning within him. Emily nodded cautiously, forcing herself to focus through the rhythm of her racing thoughts. Yeah, but it's complicated. The words tumbled out before she could second-guess herself. Maybe it was the tenderness behind Nathan's earnest inquiry or her deeper desire for connection that compelled her honesty. What's complicated? His curiosity was genuine, eyes fixed on her as if she were the only one who mattered in that crowded space. That a weighty pause filled the air. Should she unveil the raw truth of her situation, revealing her fears and uncertainty? Taking a deep breath, she decided vulnerability might yield a deeper resonance between them. I'm pregnant. Expectations are heavy. His expression shifted, a flicker of empathy dawning in his eyes. That's wow, I can't imagine what you're going through. His voice lowered into sincerity, awakening something within her. With each shared word, she sensed an unusual solidarity taking shape. Despite their contrasting realities, Emily hesitated again, gauging the weight of her next words. She needed to assert her strength without capitulating to vulnerability. But I have resources, she asserted, an affirmation to herself as much as to him. I found scholarships for single mothers, and there are people who can help. The conviction in her voice surprised even her. It was a reminder that she had aspirations. She would not become a victim of her circumstances. Nathan, too, felt stirred, pulled into her determination. He recognized this was not merely an encounter, it was a profound dawning of new possibilities. Can I help you? He asked gradually, the question hung poised in the air. The audacity of his suggestion startled both of them, fueled by his desire to reconcile his wealth with his past. Why would you want to? She shot back, her instinct to preserve autonomy flaring. An undercurrent of need mixed with suspicion tensed the air between them. Because Nathan paused, grappling with his own emotions. I know what it's like to bear the weight of expectations and grief. Maybe helping you could help me what? Overcome my situation? Emily's retort was sharper than she intended. The raw edge of their lives felt exposed now, and she was wary of the gamble. I meant, perhaps it could ease our burdens. I don't have all the answers, but I want to try, he said, the sincerity of his intentions mirroring the raw honesty of her situation. The unexpected warmth vested her fragile spirit with a new spark of courage, yet even as her heart began to soften to the possibility of his support, she was struck by a sobering realization: their lives, though momentarily intertwined, would still be longitudinally divided by privilege and hardship. In that instant, Emily understood. This wasn't just about two lives colliding, it was a test of trust that could redefine the trajectory of both of their futures. As Nathan stepped closer, the unmistakable complexities of their connection loomed large. The futures they dreamt of, entwined and inextricably changed, hung in the balance, waiting for the right moment to push them forward into the unknown, and in that fragile space between them, doubts coalesced with fleeting hope. What would it take for each of them to lower their defenses, to accept the weight of their respective burdens together? Uncertain yet relentless, Emily remained steadfast in her awareness. The moment had come to truly evaluate the terms of her strength and his intentions. Aware that a new chapter loomed on the horizon, she felt the approaching wave of fresh-facing decisions pressing hard against her. What were they willing to risk for the chance at connection, at change? As she clung to that thought, another heartbeat echoed in her mind, whispering promises of resilience, urging her to decide what she truly wanted. A shiver ran through Emily as she wrestled with the options in front of her, the future of not just her career, but the responsibility of motherhood dancing precariously on a knife's edge. Nathan's presence loomed, palpable and intense, igniting both fear and a strange empowerment within her. Can I help you? The words replayed in her mind like an echo refusing to fade. Could she allow herself to answer that question honestly? Could she drop the walls built around her uncertainty and skepticism? As a single mother, self-reliance had become her mantra. It was practically the foundation upon which she had constructed her identity. Yet the sincerity in Nathan's gaze flickered with a light that challenged her resolve. What if accepting help meant not surrendering control, but gaining a new ally in a life fraught with challenges? Let us not rush this, she finally said, her voice steady despite the tempest of thoughts stirring within. I need to think about this. The frame of their conversation shifted. It was no longer merely about her circumstances, but rather a potential collaboration that could redefine her future. As they parted ways at the end of the evening, Emily's mind was a whirlpool of ideas. Each step away from Nathan caused a cascading waterfall of reflections, evaluations, and possibilities. How would she integrate his potential support into her already carefully planned pathways? Her days were now measured in formulas, attending classes, studying late into the night, and managing appointments, all while nurturing the life growing inside her. There was no room for missteps. Yet, the sting of his proposition lingered in her thoughts, charging her usual tenacity with the notion of shared burdens. Returning home, Emily sat on the edge of her bed, exhaustion mingling with exhilaration. She flicked on her laptop, the blue glow illuminating her face in the dimly lit room. Would Nathan's involvement complicate or clarify her ambitions? The scholarships danced in the back of her mind, representative of unyielding willpower and a trailblazing path toward her degree. With her fingers hovering above the keyboard, she began drafting a plan. She resolved to reach out to the scholarship organizations tomorrow. Words like empowerment and future filled her browser as she searched for resources that supported single mothers in navigating academia and professional aspirations, but in her heart, Nathan's words held weight. If she could entangle her dreams with his, each could achieve more than they could alone. The sheer notion felt revolutionary and terrifying. Sleep escaped her that night as the intricacies of their rare connection swirled in her mind. The warmth from this new possibility coiled tightly around her heart, battling against the familiar chill of doubt and wariness that had shadowed every decision up until now. The next morning, washed in the sunlight of a new day, clarity began to seep in. In navigating the complexities of college and impending motherhood, she would have to embrace her vulnerability. Reaching out for help didn't signal weakness. It demonstrated courage and the willingness to grow. Alone, she felt burdened, but with Nathan, perhaps she could soar. Before she could overthink it, Emily decided to compose a text. "You mentioned wanting to help me, let's talk," she typed cautiously. Her finger hovered over the send button, the action feeling monumental. Could she trust him enough to let him into her life? As soon as the message slipped into the digital ether, Emily felt a mix of relief and anxiety tighten in her chest. The decision was made, yet it hung unanswered like the dawn waiting for sunrise. With every breath she took, a burgeoning hope sprang within her. But what if Nathan's offer turned into something she couldn't control? Or worse yet, what if he brought with him the very chaos she fought so hard to avoid? The moment of unraveling was approaching. Would the next conversation propel them forward or into a precarious spiral? And just as her thoughts threatened to spiral, her phone pinged with a response. "Let's meet later today. I want to see how I can truly help." A mixture of excitement and fear washed over Emily. This was the pivotal point, a decision that could change everything. What awaited them in this meeting? Would it be an affirmation of her courage or a test of her resolve? Emily arrived at the cafe an hour before their scheduled meeting, hoping to gather her thoughts. As the aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped her, she felt both invigorated and anxious. The sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating the rustic ambience. She sipped her coffee slowly, her mind racing with questions. What could Nathan offer that would truly change her predicament? Would their collaboration elevate her goals, or would it draw her deeper into uncertainty? The weight of motherhood and ambition pressed upon her shoulders, intensifying her internal conflict. She wondered how much of herself she was willing to share with Nathan. Was she prepared to open herself to the vulnerability that came with acceptance, or would she retreat into her familiar shell of independence? When Nathan arrived, he brought an energy that contrasted sharply with her pensive demeanor. Dressed sharply, exuding confidence, he settled into the chair across from her with an inviting smile. In that moment, Emily saw a glimpse of what collaboration could mean, a potential anchor in the stormy seas of life. Yet, the closeness of their meeting also ignited a familiar firestorm of self-doubt. "Thanks for meeting me on short notice," Nathan initiated, his voice warm yet professional. "Of course," Emily replied, adjusting her posture, trying to shake off her insecurities. "Why don't we start by discussing what you need?" He prompted, leaning closer, his gaze intent. encouraging her to speak. Taking a deep breath, she unfolded her plans. I want to succeed academically, but I need to balance motherhood too. I'm considering scholarships, but I feel overwhelmed. What do you think I should focus on? Her honesty surprised her, yet it felt liberating to articulate her struggles. Nathan listened, nodding thoughtfully. Well, your determination is apparent, which is a tremendous asset, he responded. But let us strategize to make sure your path is sustainable. It's essential to lay down a plan that allows you to achieve your goals without sacrificing your well-being. As they mapped out her academic pursuits, Emily began to feel a shift in her perspective. He showed her resources, shared insights from his own life about balancing work and personal commitments, and offered to review her applications. Every idea he presented resonated with her ambition, a blend of pragmatism and encouragement that she hadn't anticipated. It felt good to have someone believe in her potential. With their conversation unfolding into deeper layers of aspirations and fears, Emily found a new rhythm. Nathan's insights began to illuminate the shadows she had hesitated to confront. She discovered strengths within herself that she had overlooked: her capacity to adapt, her intuition in problem-solving, and her relentless drive to forge a better life. However, as the meeting progressed, a nagging thought persisted at the back of her mind. Was she genuinely opening herself to this partnership, or was she merely trading one dependency for another? Every plan conveyed a form of reliance that echoed her past experiences, where trust had been betrayed, and independence had been paramount. Just as they reached a consensus on actionable steps, Nathan leaned back, his demeanor shifting slightly, as if gauging her vulnerability. Emily, I know you're fiercely independent, but it's crucial to recognize when collaboration can amplify your efforts without compromising who you are. Remember, reaching out doesn't mean losing yourself, he advised, a hint of challenge in his tone. His words struck a chord, awakening the dualities within her: the urge to remain self-reliant juxtaposed with the need to embrace support. Now she faced a choice that could redefine her trajectory. As they prepared to wrap up, Emily resolved to lean into her discomfort. I appreciate your insights, Nathan. Maybe accepting help is the most courageous thing I could do right now, she admitted, her voice steady. There had been a shift. Acknowledgement of interdependence felt like stepping into a new reality. Nathan's smile revealed a spectrum of understanding, encouraging her to traverse this new path. Let us check in regularly and keep building on this. I'll be here every step of the way. In that moment, Emily realized the conversation was not about losing control, it was about gaining clarity. Yet, the deeper question loomed: could she still maintain her identity while sharing the weight of her aspirations? As they exchanged goodbyes, hope blossomed alongside lingering doubts. Emily stepped out into the world outside the cafe, invigorated yet uncertain, the weight of their conversation lingering in her mind. She felt as if she were on the precipice, peering into unknown depths. In that transformative moment, she made a promise to herself, a commitment to both her dreams and her willingness to grow alongside others. The next step wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. What would Nathan's ongoing support reveal about her capabilities? Could she navigate both vulnerability and strength without losing herself? As she pondered these questions, the horizon of possibility spread before her, drawing her into the vast unknown of her journey ahead. The path stretched wide, waiting for her next decisive move. Emily stepped out of the cafe, her mind still buzzing with the exchange she had just experienced. The air was brisk, invigorating her senses as she walked down the bustling street filled with people heading to various destinations. Each face she passed seemed consumed by their own priorities, their lives intertwined yet separate from hers. As the cool breeze danced around her, she felt a flicker of determination ignite within. Encouraged by her conversation with Nathan, Emily decided it was time to solidify the strategies they had created. She ducked into the local library, its quiet atmosphere promising the solitude she needed to focus. The moment she settled at a table, she retrieved her notes, fragments of plans and ideas, but instead of merely reviewing them, she began to mold them into something concrete. With each concept she revised, Emily felt a wave of empowerment wash over her. Writing had always been her refuge, it allowed her to articulate her thoughts and draw connections between her visions and the tangible steps required to realize them. She meticulously outlined potential scholarship applications, listing the qualities she would emphasize as an applicant: her resilience, her academic aspiration, and the profound motivation her son provided. As she wrote, an unexpected memory surfaced. She recalled a time in her childhood when she had convinced herself that she wasn't enough. The weight of that belief had crippled her ambitions. Yet, looking now at the list before her, she recognized the transformation occurring within her. She was no longer the girl who shrank under the weight of her ambitions. She was a woman defining her destiny. Her concentration broke when she felt her phone buzz on the table. It was a message from Nathan, checking in to see how she was progressing. A smile crossed her face. The simple act of accountability had already begun to reinforce her resolve. "I'm working on my applications and planning for the upcoming semester. Thanks for the support," she typed back quickly, adding a resolve she hadn't felt in a long time. There was strength in collaboration. They exchanged a few more messages, and with each response, Emily felt her network of support solidifying. Perhaps Nathan's encouragement wasn't a threat to her independence, but rather an avenue toward amplifying her voice. She questioned how different her life might look if she embraced such partnership rather than retreating into her old ways of solitude. The thought carried her through the rest of the afternoon. Days turned into weeks, each filled with study sessions, application reviews, and occasional check-ins with Nathan. He became a fixture in her journey, offering insights not just academically, but also illuminating the path of emotional resilience, a facet she had often neglected. However, with growth came discomfort. Just as she was finding her rhythm, a sense of dread began creeping in as deadlines approached. Each notification from the university felt like a ticking clock echoing in her mind, pressing against her aspirations. What if she faltered? What if she poured her heart into these applications only to find rejection? The weight of these thoughts pressed heavily as she lay in her bed one night, staring at the ceiling. In the silence of her room, where dreams of a better future collided with anxiety, she confronted an unsettling truth: her fear of rejection mirrored the scars of her past. Was it naive to believe she could break free from those chains? Just as she began to spiral, her phone lit up again. This time it was a motivational podcast from a speaker she admired, someone who had overcome substantial odds. She clicked play, letting the words seep into her thoughts. "Embrace the discomfort," the speaker said, "for it is in the struggle that we redefine ourselves." As the episode played on, Emily felt compelled to act. The gravity of her fear had twisted into motivation. She sat up, her heart racing, ready to face the emotions head-on. She opened her laptop, her fingers poised over the keyboard, ready to channel her concerns into action. For the first time, Emily wasn't just afraid, she was ready to challenge that fear. In that resolve, she reminded herself that she was backing herself now, not merely as a mother, or a student, but as a woman ready to stake her claim in her new life. And just as dawn breaks after the longest night, clarity washed over Emily. This journey was not simply about overcoming rejection, but about embracing her growth through uncertainty. As she prepared to submit her first application, a new realization hit her: the rejection she feared could only serve to fuel her transformation, but the real test lay not in that potential outcome, it resided within her choice to keep moving forward despite the unknown. With her heart pounding, she clicked the submit button and stared at the screen, adrenaline coursing through her. What awaited her in the next chapter of her journey? Would she emerge stronger, or would the shadows of doubt creep back in to challenge her newfound courage? The day after submitting her application, Emily awoke with an unmistakable weight pressing on her chest. The adrenaline that had propelled her through the night now ebbed away, leaving her with the familiar residue of anxiety. What if the submission had been a mistake? What if she was simply setting herself up for disappointment? Shaking off the thoughts, she took a deep breath and focused on the only thing she could control: her next steps. Determined not to fall into a spiral of self-doubt, Emily grabbed a notepad from the dining table and began sketching out a new plan, this time focused on building her confidence. There had to be something she could do to bolster her spirits. As she waited, she started with small, manageable goals, dedicate time each day to study a new subject, engage with her son more actively in their shared hobbies, and seek opportunities to volunteer. Beginning with volunteering felt particularly meaningful. It would connect her to her community and remind her of the larger purpose behind her ambitions. With a strong resolve, Emily scoured the local nonprofit organizations' websites. As she sifted through the listings, one particular program stood out: a mentorship initiative aimed at helping underprivileged students navigate their educational journeys. A familiar determination ignited within her. She could channel her own experiences into something transformative for others. After filling out the volunteer application, Emily felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was a critical moment for her, not only in helping others but also in discovering her own potential. This experience might serve as a reminder of her worth. As her thoughts circled around the idea of mentorship, she realized that each student she supported could serve as a reflection of her own journey, overcoming fears, embracing risks, and fostering growth. Days turned to weeks, and as she became more involved with the mentorship program, she started to witness a change within herself. The students were eager and passionate, embodying traits she admired. Watching them thrive fueled her determination to become a beacon for them. Sharing her story, cultivating supportive relationships, and celebrating their successes illuminated a pathway she had long ignored. She was capable of inspiring others. However, as she thrived in this newfound role, traces of vulnerability still lingered. The looming uncertainty of her scholarship application weighed on her mind, creeping back like a shadow whenever she felt buoyant. One afternoon, during a quiet moment while helping a particularly shy student with her math homework, it struck Emily deeply. What if her vulnerability became her strength? She hadn't completed her journey alone in the past, and it was clear now that true empowerment came not from distancing herself from her fears but from embracing them. Sharing her doubts and experiences with her students could foster a deeper connection and create a support network where they could collectively rise above their challenges. Perhaps, by weaving her personal narrative into her interactions, she could cultivate a resilient community of learners, each supporting and learning from one another's experiences. As she considered this revelation, Emily wrote down a new goal: to foster an environment where both she and her students could embrace their vulnerabilities and flourish together. This perspective afraid her but also excited her. It was a chance to step further into her power. Yet, just as she was beginning to solidify her new role, a message from Nathan jolted her from her contemplation. He had heard from a friend about an unexpected opportunity: an educational workshop specifically designed to empower aspiring leaders. But it was taking place in a week, and they needed quick confirmation to secure a spot. Emily's heart raced. This could be a chance to fortify her knowledge and assert her position further. But would it take her focus away from her students and her mentorship work? The choice loomed before her: should she dive headfirst into this opportunity, potentially abandoning her newfound sense of purpose, or should she remain steadfast in nurturing the bonds that had just begun to form? Ultimately, it boiled down to a broader question: could she integrate her ambitions with her desire to uplift others, or would she have to choose between them? As she weighed the options, the tension in her mind grew thick. What would define her journey the most: the pursuit of her dreams or the impact she could have on those around her? Would she find a way to balance both? Emily felt the stirrings of doubt again, momentarily blinding her to the path ahead. Would this upcoming decision solidify her growth or shatter her newfound confidence? The choice was hers to make, and the clock was ticking. Emily sat at her kitchen table, fingers trembling over her phone as she replayed Nathan's message in her mind. The prospect of attending the workshop hummed with promise, yet the thought of stepping away from her mentorship responsibilities tugged at her conscience. This moment was pivotal, but each option felt fraught with meaning and consequence. Doubt seeped into her thoughts. What if the workshop pushed her to realize she didn't belong there? Alternatively, what if it offered the insights she desperately needed to develop her vision? The tension surrounding the choice felt akin to a siren call, beckoning her toward both opportunity and fear. As she mulled over the decision, Emily took a moment to observe her surroundings. The walls of her kitchen, adorned with her son's artwork, radiated warmth and familiarity. Yet she felt an urgency, a desire for personal growth that clashed with the comfort of her current reality. The juxtaposition between nurturing her newfound role and pursuing her ambitions mirrored her internal struggle. With resolve, she set her phone down and turned to her notebook. She strategically mapped out the two paths, utilizing a decision-making technique she'd read about. On one side, she listed the potential benefits of attending the workshop: networking opportunities, skill enhancement, and personal confidence. On the other, she wrote about the potential downsides: neglecting her students, feeling torn between ambitions, and possibly being overwhelmed by new responsibilities. In the midst of this analysis, her son, Aiden, burst into the room, his energy infectious. He approached her, curiosity lighting up his face as he peered over her notes. "Mom, what are you doing?" She hesitated for a second, weighing whether to share her dilemma. "Just trying to figure out whether I should take a class or focus more on my mentoring." Aiden leaned in, brows furrowed in concentration. "But can't you do both? It's like leveling up in a video game, right? You can get stronger and still help your friends." Her heart warmed at his insight. Aiden's innocent perspective struck her. Perhaps the key to her dilemma lay in reconciling both worlds, rather than perceiving them as mutual exclusions. Why couldn't she use the new knowledge to better serve her students? That clarity ignited a spark in her, an understanding that she didn't need to sacrifice one passion for another. Taking the workshop could enhance her mentoring skills and produce a ripple effect for her students. With renewed conviction, Emily grabbed her phone, fingers moving with determination. She typed, "I'll take the spot, thanks for the opportunity." As the confirmation went through, warmth spread through her chest, illuminating the shadows of uncertainty she had grappled with for so long. This choice was about more than personal ambition, it was a commitment to both her growth and her ability to empower others. The excitement simmered beneath her calm exterior. Yet, as the reality of her decision solidified, new questions emerged. What would the workshop entail? Who would she meet? Emily felt the familiar twinge of anxiety creep into her mind, urging her to overthink. But this time, instead of succumbing, she reminded herself that every step of this journey required a leap of faith. Her role as a mentor and her quest for personal development were no longer at odds, they could intertwine, creating a narrative of resilience and empowerment. And just as she began to forge a plan to fully embrace this new venture, a notification chimed on her phone. A message from one of her students popped up, one filled with doubts about their own abilities. With a deep breath, Emily smiled. She would step up, share her journey, and invite the students to embrace their vulnerabilities just as she had. But the revelation loomed ahead like a shadow. Could she truly rise alongside them while continuously facing her own? With a blend of exhilaration and trepidation, she began to type a reassuring response, knowing that their paths would converge in powerful ways. The workshop awaited. But the answer to the broader quest lay in the connections she forged ahead of her. The next step was uncharted, and as she pressed send, another realization washed over her. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries about oneself come from reaching out to uplift others. What would that intersection of growth reveal? Emily stood in front of her bathroom mirror, the stark whiteness of the tiles contrasting sharply with the vibrant chaos of the emotions brewing inside her. She had just signed up for the workshop, and yet, the thrill of her decision was tempered by a growing sense of urgency and anxiety. The mirror reflected her uncertainty, her cheeks flushed with a mix of excitement and trepidation. As she brushed her hair, she considered the implications of her choice. This wouldn't just be a workshop, it was an opportunity for transformation. Every second spent there in pursuit of her own development would inevitably intertwine with her responsibilities as a mentor. How would she convey that to her students? Would they trust her insights if she had yet to navigate the very waters she would ask them to explore? The questions festered in her brain, a swirling cloud of doubt. Each doubt threatened to unravel the confidence she had built up. She leaned closer to the mirror, reminding herself that she wasn't only stepping into the workshop for her benefit, she was also doing it for her students. This was not self-indulgence, it was a mission. Her phone buzzed again, pulling her from the reflective moment. It was another message from a student, this time expressing concern about an upcoming presentation. The words "I can't do this" struck true. Emily felt the weight of their vulnerability, echoing her own fears about inadequacy. She realized that they were all strung together by threads of uncertainty, her own journey and those of her students becoming interwoven in a web of shared experiences. The confluence of doubt sparked a plan. She needed to step onto that workshop stage not just as a participant but as a living testament to resilience. Emily composed a quick response to her student, infusing the message with hope. Her heart raced as she typed about shared experiences, underscoring that every individual faced moments of doubt, yet those were the very moments that offered peaks of growth. Her vision crystallized. She would document her journey through the workshop, cataloging each lesson learned, each obstacle faced, and each triumph achieved. The thought of chronicling this path ignited a new excitement within her. What if her experiences could provide a roadmap for her students, allowing them to visualize their own growth? The idea of creating a blog or a vlog for her students began to spark in her imagination, morphing into a vital part of her plan, an act of service that she could embark on alongside her learning. As she took a deep breath, Emily felt a shift in her mindset. She could no longer see her development as a solitary climb but rather as part of a collective ascent that involved everyone she mentored. With renewed purpose, she made a note to draft her intentions for this project upon her return from the workshop, but as she stood there, a peculiar pang of doubt shot through her. What if she failed? What if her insights weren't valuable? For a moment, the shadow of those possibilities threatened to overshadow her resolve. Yet, a rush of determination surged forth. She wouldn't let fear dictate her choices. Tomorrow, she would step into the unknown, face the fears that had previously paralyzed her, and embrace the chance to grow. With each decision she made, she was not only advancing her own skills but also preparing to light a path for her students who struggled, just as she had. As she finished her morning routine, her heart raced in anticipation. The workshop awaited her, promising the adventure and challenge she craved. Yet, she felt a surge of curiosity. Who else would join her on this journey? What voices, experiences, and insights would wait beyond the doors of the workshop? Emily's hand hovered over the phone once again, a text message from Nathan flashing back on the screen. The unexpected tension pulled at her. What if he became an ally on this journey? What if he had insights that could further propel her growth? The stakes were rising, and she knew that she needed to prepare for the connections she would forge. Confidence to help navigate this pivotal point in both her life and career, and just as she braced herself for the next day, a familiar feeling lingered in the air, the anticipation of facing one's fears, intertwined with the promise of self-discovery on the horizon. What challenges awaited her in the workshop, and would those challenges test her commitment to mentor others while she evolved? The day of the workshop dawned bright, optimism washing over Emily as she admired her reflection. Gone was the urgency and anxiety that had plagued her mornings. Instead, determination and clarity radiated from her. She had spent every moment since making the decision to attend focusing not just on her personal growth but how her journey could inspire others. As she arrived at the venue, she inhaled deeply, familiarizing herself with the buzz of energy around her. Each participant was an embodiment of ambition, drawn together by a shared desire for leadership and growth. Emily's heart raced in anticipation of what connections would unfold and knowledge would be shared. The sessions began, and Emily immersed herself in every discussion, absorbing strategies for effective leadership and personal branding. With each speaker's insights, she scribbled notes frantically, weaving her own aspirations into the tapestry of their lessons. It was empowering to hear experienced leaders share their stories of overcoming failures and relying on the support of others, reaffirming the very principles Emily had begun to embrace. As she participated in breakout sessions, she engaged vibrant discussions with her peers, sharing her experiences as a mentor and student, finding commonalities in their struggles. Each exchange fortified her belief in the power of collaboration. Emily articulated the importance of embracing vulnerability as a tool for growth, sparking interest among the attendees. She no longer felt solitary in her journey, she was part of something larger. Midway through the day, the facilitators announced a networking session. Emily felt the flutter of nerves, yet a new kind of confidence coursed through her veins. She sought out Nathan, who had also arrived at the workshop to support her initiative. Emily. Nathan's voice broke through the crowd, warmth infusing the moment. I'm so glad to see you here. I'm more grateful than I can express, she replied, her eyes shining with recognition of their intertwined journeys. Together, we can amplify our impacts. As they exchanged thoughts on the sessions and ideas for enhancing their mentorship program, a promise solidified between them. Each grasped the opportunity to draw strength from their unique experiences, ensuring that their individual paths converged to foster growth for others. Nathan's insights into the corporate world and Emily's experience as a mother and mentor melded into a vision for a more robust support system for underprivileged students. By the time the workshop came to its conclusion, Emily's confidence burgeoned. She had not only learned to articulate her goals but had built a network of like-minded individuals ready to support one another. The last speaker echoed sentiments that struck a chord deep within. The most effective leaders are those who help others rise as they climb. On her way home, each encounter she had lingered in her thoughts, like threads woven into a new narrative, one of interconnectedness, shared strength, and amplified dreams. Days passed as Emily channeled her fresh energy into action. She began drafting a blog, detailing her workshop experiences and weaving in strategies for resilience and empowerment. She positioned herself not only as a mentor but also as a storyteller, hoping to invite her students into the narrative, encouraging them to share their journeys. In the meantime, Nathan continued his support, helping her refine the mentorship program's curriculum, tailoring it to bridge the gap between academic achievement and personal success. Their synergy blossomed, each moment fortified her awareness that collaboration was indeed her superpower. Eventually, the first official session of the mentorship program was set to launch. As she stood before her students, pride swelled within her. They were no longer just following a scripted curriculum, they were engaged participants within a community that valued their stories, their struggles, and their growth. Sharing her journey, she stood bare without the polished armor of perfection. Together, we will rise and reach for our dreams, she stated, her voice steady, echoing with a newfound strength that resonated with her students. They listened intently, the once distant goals they perceived now glimmering within reach, and she knew they would impact their lives collectively. Her journey had transformed into theirs. Reflection upon her fears now revealed a stark contrast from where she once stood. The uncertainty that had gripped her was replaced with an unwavering confidence rooted in shared courage and emotional growth. Emily accomplished a feat beyond her aspirations. She constructed a bridge between her desires and her willingness to foster connections, a transformation that radiated authenticity. In the end, Emily no longer viewed herself through the lens of hardship but rather through the prism of shared resilience and triumph. She had stepped into the fullness of her potential, asserting her presence in ways she had once doubted. Seizing her moment, Emily raised her gaze to the world that awaited. Who else could she uplift? How many stories would unfold through her mentoring? One certainty remained: she was ready to embrace every opportunity that came her way. As she gazed out, her heart filled with the promise of a future she would carve with intention, strength, and collaboration. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. This matters. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the power of supporting the channel through these actions.